Good morning, good morning, good morning from the west side. Whoop, whoop. This is the Stiletto Talks, and I am Paula Hutchinson, and I am the CEO of the Stiletto Talks. And our goal and our mission is to always create collaborative safe spaces for women of color. We want to make sure that we are learning and growing at every phase of life. So whether you are 18 or 78, we got you covered. Today, we are continuing our commitment to personal development and professional development. And we have Charlsie Jackson, our HR guru. If you follow the Stiletto Talks magazine, she's written some amazing articles for us regarding resumes, what people are looking for. And as a recruiter, she's the one that has to look for you. So don't stalk her. But we are glad to have her with us today to share those insights of, hey, this is what you need. And this is so important. I am actually driving somewhere, and she is on glowing and growing on this good Saturday, looking like Self-Care Saturday in all its glory. But this is so important to us. And this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and it will be uploaded on our Facebook pages as well as Instagram. We need you all to get it. Find out what you need. One thing we know for sure is that women of color have a problem asking for help because we are taught to be the strong ones. Howbeit ever, we are in a space in a historical time where we have the opportunity to grow, but we can't grow when we don't know. So this is where we are providing on-demand learning so that you have the opportunity to learn in your own time, in the privacy of your own space, and also where you can follow up with us with asking questions about, hey, I need answers. We want to make sure that you have that. So welcome again, Charlsie.
Thank you.
It is always a pleasure to talk with you. So you've spoken with us before regarding our resume, what to look for, where we are. And one of the things that you talked about is making sure that our resume contains certain things. So today we're going to talk about not only if you're trying to work for an employer, but then some people are transitioning or being phased out of their job. It's not only just quiet quitting, you also have jobs quietly phasing positions out. And so many are choosing to go into consulting or other things that they're working for themselves. So we want to talk about what that resume may look like too. So for the recap of those who are looking to be employed, what do you think are the top 3 things that you look for as a recruiter and that you are aware of that other recruiters are looking for in this space right now?
Yeah, definitely. And thanks again for having me. Love having these conversations. I would say just as any recruiter, what we're mainly looking for is somebody who at least meets the basic qualifications of the role. Nobody expects for anybody to hit every single mark 100% as far as preferred and basic qualifications. But most companies are starting to develop at least ground level foundational skills as well as experience that they would want you to have, whether it's having a high school diploma or having a degree in a certain field or any type of bachelor's degree. Some are starting now, of course, to start looking for masters, just depending on the level of the role. They also see how your skills on your resume align with what they're looking for. No resume is going to, again, 100% match what a job description has, but certain keywords and buzzwords that you may see in a job description, if you know that you have those skills, it's okay to add those skills to your resume. So then that way it stands out and a recruiter is seeing that you at least have some of the bottom line skills they're looking for to fill that role. Another would just be being sure that you're putting your tenure. With COVID and everything else, a lot of recruiters are starting to get away from looking at years of experience or things of that nature, but you still want to kind of put that just to kind of gauge how long you were with an employer. But we understand layoffs have been happening pretty much now for the last 3 years, so we're not going to hold that against you. And it's okay to put that on your resume. It's okay that you were part of a RIF or a reduction in force. And then that way the recruiter knows like you were a part of a layoff instead of, just quitting or potentially getting let go for other reasons.
I love the language that you just said, the reduction in force, and that's something that many do not even think to put on their resumes. And if no matter what part of the country you're in, especially if you work like state jobs and stuff like that, or
yes,
any type of government job, a reduction in force or a change in leadership may impact your job status. So I love the fact that you said that, because it helps to answer the question of the lapse of time in between jobs without necessarily having to explain it. It's basically in your summary for that particular job description.
Exactly. And again, most recruiters, if they've been recruiting through COVID and everything going on, we can kind of tell already, but you putting that on your resume just helps us to be able to put those pieces together. Because unfortunately, sometimes we do work with hiring managers that have antiquated ideas, and they look at resumes, they still consider it job hopping. But if you're putting on your resume that you were a part of a reduction in force, then that helps the recruiter to be able to better explain to the hiring manager why you maybe were somewhere for 3 months or 6 months or just a year. Also, more people are starting to understand the fact that people are leaving positions after a year, maybe because at that point, you may get a 3 to 5% increase at your current employer getting a raise. However, you could leave and get paid probably a 10 to 15% raise just by joining a new company. So more companies are starting to understand employees can see that difference just in changing jobs. And so as long as you're able to speak to that in your interview and explain, looking for a new growth opportunity, things of that nature, that would really help in being able to explain why maybe after a year of tenure, you're looking to leave.
That is powerful information, because even myself, I've had to think about how would I explain my transition from one industry to the next and how certain skills are transferable, and then how the Stiletto Talk is not going to impact anything that I am doing in the workplace. It is an organization that focuses on collaborative safe spaces. And while, yes, it is a job, it is a task, it is not a hindrance to a performance of a daily job. I need my money like anybody else. So I love that you brought that up. And to that, people like myself that are dualpreneurs, you're working a job and you have a industry that you're working in, and you have your passion and your brand. So you may need another resume that speaks to that passion or that brand. Share with us a little bit about, let's say if your company wanted to do business with that brand, what does that look like? What are you all looking for training purposes? It could be something to supply a supplier need. What are you all looking for, especially for those, like I said, you explained the tenure part, how sometimes people are kind of moving around a little bit, but in some of that movement, some have chosen to stay at those jobs, but they are clearly working full-time other avenues of income. They've diversified their portfolio. So how do you bulk up that resume, your personal resume for yourself, to gain other income outside of a job?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And so it's funny you brought that up. I remember I actually had a candidate who she worked a full-time job in sales, but then she also was a photographer on the side, and she did weddings and birthdays and things of that nature. And so she did a really great job of combining actually her personal and business resume. And so what ended up happening was we hired her for a sales position, but when the company actually needed a photographer for events, they did like a kind of like a subcontract, I want to say, to hire her business to actually do event photography for the company. Even though she was already an employee, they still wanted to have a separate contract with her just for the photography as a separate entity. So I always tell people, put everything on one resume if you feel those skills can be used with the company that you're looking to work for. However, if you are looking to become eventually 100% in that entrepreneurial space, then I would say you really want to look at companies that use your type of business, or like public speakers or things of that nature, and what type of skills those people have or those businesses have that they're providing those services, and then tailor your resume to it. The internet is your best friend in looking at anything. And so if you're looking to maybe start working with a company through, interview counseling or interview coaching, then kind of look to see like where maybe that company may even need help with training people, and then beef up your resume to match that company and what it's looking for. So then that way, when you are starting to pitch to them and you're starting to talk to them, they can see how your business aligns. But I always tell people, I see nothing wrong with putting your entrepreneur side on your professional resume as well, because you never know what opportunities could come just from that employer and using your brand with your employer.
Listen, that is fire information. And just, I meet so many people that this is their struggle, this is their challenge, especially for minority women who are generally underpaid for their respective work. And so they must diversify their portfolio. And
yes.
Often in doing so and diversifying their portfolio, they're almost overqualified because they do a plethora of things. So I like the fact that you said to put just the main transferable skills that could go in either way. They can put that on there, and they don't have to hide the fact that they do in fact have a business, because most of them are kind of sneaking and kind of telling it after the fact, and they should not sneak it. Like you said, there's an opportunity. Some companies will actually use you and contract your business, and you're an employee, which is great.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are so many people that have their own side businesses. It's almost impossible to come across a resume now that doesn't have somebody's business on there. And of course, employers are going to ask, whether it's the recruiter or the hiring manager, they might ask, what's your time commitment? Will it actually be something that will interfere? And as long as that person knows how to balance and of course not work on company time on your business, no employer that I have been a part of has ever turned away somebody that had their own side business. Like I said, the one young lady, she just sticks out the most to me because it really helped her business so much to be able to work with the company. But the fact that they saw that skill on there, and we were hiring her for a sales job, and she had her photography business for I think about 10 years. So for her to be able to use her business with the company really was just, double luck for her. But, it may not always be a brand or something that your company could use, but showing you have that entrepreneurial mindset also shows that you're dedicated, you're not going to give up quickly, and you really have drive and ambition. So even that is something that would be transferable to an employer for skills that they're looking for in their next employee.
Great information. Oh, wow. I'm excited. I cannot wait for everybody to hear that, because I think sometimes that's the anxiety in it all. And what you also mentioned was interview coaching. Now, some folks, we know you have been around for a minute, and you are like, I've always been able to get a job. I've always been able to get a job. And I always had a job. But interviews are changing out of the loop, out of this, and you do find that a lot of older people are not able to score high enough on certain job interviews to be moved to that next round, because they got so much to talk about, almost too much to talk about.
Right.
So with that, talk about the benefits of having an interview coach at any age, at any level.
Yeah, so how interviewing is scoped changes over the years. From the time I started working in corporate type roles to the time I became a recruiter, interviews have changed a lot. Sometimes the questions aren't so different, but just the actual manner and how you do an interview can change. Right now, the biggest format that most employers use is what's called a STAR format. And so that's your situation, your task, your action, and your result. So most times, if you can answer a question in STAR format, you're already going to ace your interview. You also just have to be really confident in your interview answers. try to think of things ahead of time. You know, most of the time, employers going to ask, tell me about a time that was really difficult, or tell me about a time that you had to take hard feedback and how did you turn that around? It may be asked differently, but the basis of the questions are going to be the same. So keeping that in mind, getting interview counseling can certainly help, because sometimes if you've been in a company, let's say 5 years, and now you're looking to interview elsewhere, you're going to be a little rusty. Even myself as a recruiter, I interview people day and night, all day. And still, when I'm going for a new opportunity, I reach out to some of my recruiter friends or even mentors that I have that work in recruiting and kind of talk to them about what I should prepare for and have them look at my resume, because sometimes you get so into your own processes, you really can forget what it takes to be prepared for an interview. So even myself as a recruiter, I still get some type of coaching. And then LinkedIn is a really great resource. I always suggest people build a profile on it, take some of the free courses that they provide. They do give interview advice. And then they also have like resume coaches as well on LinkedIn. So a lot of resources you can use to get to that next step. But no matter how much job experience you have, whenever you're about to interview somewhere, it's always great to get prepared and just kind of, get those wheels going, get that thinking process going, because once you're in that moment and the nerves are kicking in and the adrenaline is kicking in, you want to be able to calm yourself and have your thoughts together so that you can have a successful interview.
That is awesome information. And I think that sometimes we just forget that the average coach has a coach. If your coach
exactly.
doesn't have a coach, that's probably not the person that needs to be coaching you. So
right.
I love the fact that you just are bringing up these great points. And because we really want to see women successful. The last thing that I want to ask you is one of the things that keeps being brought up. We get a lot of emails. And one of the things that keeps being brought up is how to present themselves. And I know that I think maybe we'll do another one that talks about from the In the Bag series, where we're talking about, dressing for that success, what that may look like, even if you're on virtual.
Yes.
Some are still showing up. You have your pajama bottoms on, but you have your tops on and everything, and then you go and stand up and pop up, and they realize you didn't even dress for the interview, like it's not a real interview. So, talk to us a little bit about that. What are you seeing in terms of how people are taking that?
Yeah, for sure. So again, it really depends on the company. I have worked for corporate side, and I have worked with like tech startup type companies and kind of everything in between. Excuse me. And so my first recruiter position, I dressed up. Like I dressed up so much for my interview. I probably looked like I was about to interview at the White House. But I actually found out later that almost hindered me, because the company was so laid back. People wore jeans, t-shirts, hoodies. And of course, you're not expected to wear that on your interview, but coming in overdressed can really be a killer as well. Luckily for me, with me and my interviews, I like to take a personal approach when I'm interviewing with companies. So as much as I am professional and I make sure I am communicating effectively, I also try to have like little jokes in there here and there, just so that to kind of lighten up the mood for myself and the people interviewing me. And so being able to show that human side distracted them from me looking like I was about to go hang out with Michelle Obama. So, but be aware of the company that you're interviewing with and kind of look at what their culture is. Glassdoor is a great resource just to look at pictures of an employer's office and like what their setting looks like. And so if you're seeing people that are more casual, you still want to dress nice for your interview, but maybe just like for men, a collared like polo shirt and khakis. For women, a collared blouse and still pants or a skirt. If you're interviewing virtually, make sure you just have a really nice top on. If you're gonna have on pajama pants, just make sure you don't stand up before you turn off your camera. But just be aware of the type of business you're applying to. excuse me, I actually, that same company that I overdressed for, I had I didn't have two nose rings at the time. I just had one. And that actually almost stopped me too, because they had a policy about not wearing facial jewelry, which I didn't know. But they still hired me, and I told them my nose piercing is a part of me, so I won't be taking it out. So if that's the requirement for the job, I wouldn't be able to accept. And they actually still kept me. I kept my offer. I started working, and I actually became part of an initiative to not have to hide tattoos, because I do have half a sleeve. And then also people were allowed to wear nose piercings. Probably not like what I have in right now, but certainly, like a small stud or something like that. That actually changed nationwide for the business, not just my office, but for our other stores that were associated as well. So it was nice to be a part of that. But I always say research the company, look at their culture. I now work for Amazon, they're recruiting. They actually have a policy that says dress code is not a thing in their interviews. People still dress up. But if somebody is wearing a hoodie, that is not going to ding them in their interview process. We don't even talk about it. So it really depends on the business and what their culture is. But a lot of times you can ask your recruiter and ask, like, what is the expected dress code for my interview? And they'll be able to give you that insight as well.
Right. And then if they tell you something that is kind of that you want to pursue, because like you said, it might just be out of alignment of something that you feel like you can do consistently.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I know for sure now, excuse me, I could probably, I'm not saying never, but I probably could not work for a company where I had to dress up every day anymore. I used to. I enjoyed it during that time. I enjoyed dressing up, wearing heels to work every day. Now I'm at a point where I like being comfortable, and I like being able to wear what I want to wear to work. And so in any opportunity, because I don't know if Amazon would be my last opportunity, but I know for sure anywhere that I were to go next would have to be the same type of environment, as far as pretty much come as you are, dress how you like, of course, appropriately still, but being able to really express yourself and be yourself in your position without it making you feel like you're looked at as being less professional just because you do have face piercings or a certain hair color or anything like that.
It's interesting that you say that. I'm headed to an event right now to advocate for the Crown Act. So,
yes.
And why it is so important for us, like you said, just feel comfortable in our skin. I think we all get to this place where we don't realize that it's not healthy. It is not healthy to not be able to be yourself.
Yes.
And so you certainly want to be in spaces where you are able to do that. And I like the fact that you brought that up because, like I said, it can be very difficult to be in a space where you're trying to figure out what should I do.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, how do we keep up with you? Because, of course, I always ask you this. Luckily for me, I have her number in my phone, but you all do not. And we are friends. But like I said, from a professional standpoint, she is absolutely one of the best.
You.
So how do you feel like people are able to keep up with you, the best way to keep up with you, rather, and to continue those conversations of possible development, taking a look at their resume, or learning about other classes that they may be able to take?
Yeah, for sure. I would say the best way to get in touch with me is on LinkedIn. So it's just my first and last name, Charlsie Jackson. I look like my profile picture. I have braids in my profile picture as well. So not too hard to find me. And I'm always open to new connection requests and speaking with people. I do offer resume reviews, resume writing. There is a fee. I'm not going to do it for free. But
okay, that's right. Let it be known. This is also her side business.
Right.
It's really not a side business. It's a part of her portfolio. I am myself making sure that I change that. It is a part of your portfolio.
Exactly. But answering questions here and there, no problem. But once it starts to get into like looking at resumes and reviewing, I'm not one of those people that charges an arm and a leg, because I do understand you're doing your resume so that you can get a new opportunity, so that you can increase your income. So it's not something I'm looking to get rich off of or anything like that. But my time is valuable. And so I do ask that people keep that in mind. But definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. And take a look at my LinkedIn, take a look at connections. I have no problem with people looking at my connections requests and seeing, who may work somewhere where they are interested in working, and then I can do an introduction as well. So that is the best way to get in touch with me on a professional side. So then that way I can always talk to them more about their career goals and what they're looking for in their next step.
Awesome, awesome. And then for us, of course, you can always catch us at www.thestilettotalks.com. Please make sure that you like our pages. We are on Facebook. We are also on Instagram. And make sure that you keep up with the events. We are on Linktree as well. You want to know what we got going on. And the reason why is because you never know what you're going to need. We all end up needing things that we didn't know that we needed. And sometimes we think that we're in our forever job, and then our forever job kind of falls through on us. So it's how do you change that and make what is now happening to you work for you, And so we want to make sure that our people are well, that they know that they have the opportunity to grow, to learn, to be in your bag. Because if you do not have the tools, it is very hard to be in your bag and maintain it when you are not continuously developing. And resumes and knowing what's out there, what to do, is certainly a part of that. Charlsie, thank you I know this is your self-care Saturday. I'm sure you have clients to meet. But thank you for your commitment.
Yes.
Not just as a friend, but just as a sister, of being willing to share, I'm sure, information that does have a fee attached to it with our audience. We certainly appreciate you. We thank you for all that you do for our ladies and ensuring that they are putting their best foot forward and that they have the best sense of awareness about what's going on out here in this economic environment to make sure that they have the best possible outcome.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's such an important conversation and something that I'm passionate about myself. So, like I said, always open to conversations on how women, especially and women of color, can really get to a point of feeling like they don't have to hold themselves back to get to that next step and not dim their light so that others can shine. So, we deserve a seat at the table just like anybody else. And we deserve to be in a safe space where we can be ourselves at that table. And so that's really what I'm a huge advocate for. And so women being able to get to those spaces without feeling like they're having to compromise their own personal morals and beliefs.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for attending or watching the Stiletto Talks in the Bag series. Charlsie, you are awesome as usual and just a wealth of knowledge for our community.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.